Yeah, and I just want to make a video um concerning faith and stuff like that. Like a lot of people think that faith is like we make a petition to God, and there's nothing wrong with making a petition to God. I mean, um just make a petition to God, and we expect God to conform to what we want. It's kind of like, you know, we want to have a relationship with God, but when it comes to our prayers, we just say a prayer and stuff like that, and want God to be like our bellboy or something, kind of like, you know. So, I mean, a lot of us don't really pray for our needs. We just pray for our wants. But faith is, I mean, even if you're praying for your needs, like God knows exactly what you need. I mean, look, it's in Matthew, I think maybe Matthew chapter something, I don't even know. But he has, there's a whole, maybe it's 20 something, like Matthew 23, probably not, I don't even know. I'd have to go back and look. But he talks a lot about anxiety and stuff like that. Like he tells us not to be anxious because, I mean, like birds eat every day. Like, like you don't see animals out there starving, do you? I mean, once in a while it happens, but I mean, very rarely. So, I mean, if God is going to make sure that, the animals are fed, then why would he let, his creation starve? And then again, somebody be like, well, there's starving people in the world. Yeah, I mean, there is starving people in the world, but wars and stuff like that. I mean, I've already went through some of my other videos. Just go back and look if you're really that interested. But moving on with this video, a lot of people make petitions and stuff like that. And there's nothing, again, like there's nothing wrong with making petitions to God and stuff, but like faith is basically just leaving it in his hands, and whatever happens with the situation, just know that it's going to work out for the best. It's like trusting somebody. It's kind of like trusting your mother or your father, or somebody who you can definitely confide in. Your mother or father might not give you exactly what you want, but you can trust that whatever they end up giving you, or however the situation ends up playing out, it's for the better good of yourself. That's what you call trust. That's faith. You're putting your faith in God, and just leaving it in his hands, and just understanding that, like a lot of times when it comes to God, so I hear, when we receive something, or even when he makes us a personal promise, we have this vision or something, whatever you want to call it, like exactly how it's supposed to be or how it's supposed to play out in our head, and we think that that's the way it's going to be. Come to find out, it could be some. I mean, it's not that the promise doesn't stand. It just means that you kind of drew up your own little conclusion, and odds are it's not really going to play out that way. Doesn't mean that the promise isn't real. It just means, you're kind of jumping the gun here and gassing yourself up, thinking that, I mean, and like I said, sometimes God does send people visions. I mean, sometimes God will give somebody a vision. I'm definitely not saying that. But a lot of times we give ourselves visions, in my opinion. There's people that give themselves visions and they think it's coming from God, But, and so, but that's, I guess that's something different. But, when it comes to faith, it's basically just saying, okay, God, here, I mean, God already knows your situation, but see, the thing about God is, in my opinion, is, God is not going to sit there and most of the time beat your door down and tie you to a chair and just take the situation and walk away with it. God is a gentleman. God will sit there and let you struggle and struggle and struggle, and you'll be sitting there thinking, where's God at? Where's God at? Well, you didn't give the situation to God, I didn't give the situation to God. He didn't give the situation to God. She didn't give the situation to God. That's why, I mean, you're sitting here struggling all this time, is because God is not going to sit there and climb through your window at 3 o'clock in the morning and steal your problem and then be gone with it. No, you have to sit there and open up the door to your life and let God in. And that's how God is. God is not going to force himself on people. God is not going to sit there at gunpoint and force you to, he's not going to just force you. He's not going to force himself on you, and that's basically what I'm saying. Like, there's a lot of people out here, and I know what it's like. I know what it's like, to think, where's God at in this situation? Well, because you have to open up the door for God. And people might think, well, I have to open up the door for God. Yeah, God doesn't force himself on people, God is not like that. I mean, I'm not sitting here claiming to know. I mean, like I said, I'm still new in my walk with God, man. I mean, really, you know. But what I do know is that God is a gentleman. God is not going to sit there and just beat your door down or force, you to. He's not going to sit there and pickpocket you. You have to you have to sit there and open up your door and let him walk in and take your problem and say, okay. But when you do that, this is where faith comes into play. You have to sit there and say, okay, here's my problem. I have it formulated, in my head a certain way. It's probably not going to end up like that. It might end up better than that. And it's not that it's going to end up worse, because when it comes to God, really, he knows what's best for all of us. But what I mean by worse is, we have this, carnal vision that we like to just kind of conjure up in our minds, and just we want the situation to play out a certain way. And when it doesn't, so, like, just, but if you want God to take your problem, you have to just give it to him. He's not going to beat your door down. So that's why a lot of people, tend to, where's God in all this? Well, because you didn't, we don't give it to him. We don't give God our problems. We just want to sit there and struggle and then complain, kick and complain when God doesn't sit there and help us. Well, like, you can't, like, he can't receive something that you didn't give him. You're still holding on to that stuff. I mean, I know this is like one of the crazy, like, this is one of the most popular cliches out there, let go and let God. That's basically what I'm saying in a nutshell. But you have to let go in order to let God, because God will not take anything from. God is not a thief. It's against his nature. And it might sound stupid. Well, it's just a problem. Yeah, well, God's not going to steal it from you. It's your problem. It's not his problem. But he will take it from you if you give it to him. So that's where faith comes into play. Just don't expect every petition and every prayer that you pray. Don't expect, if you pray for a red car or something, like, I'm not saying God doesn't open up the door to give people cars. I'm just saying, let's say you're going through something and you need help, or you're walking with God and or whatever, like, you're asking him to deliver you from some kind of sin nature, whatever, or not the sin nature, but just like, you might be struggling with something, and you want him to help you out or something. Well, you might have a certain type of process in mind, or you might expect him to do it right away, and he might not do it right away. That there might be a process involved, or whatever. Like, you might expect to go left when he's going to take you the opposite direction and go right. You might be expecting to go through this sort of stuff, when in reality he's going to take you the opposite direction. You have to go through that sort of stuff. And sometimes he will take you the way you expect, but sometimes he won't. That's where faith comes into play. And that's kind of what I'm learning right now. One of the things God is showing me in my life. So I just wanted to come on here and share that with whoever might see this video. So that's it.